Variable declaration. Welcome back everybody. I'm Prakash Pradhan, your trainer for this entire series of the QBASIC. Now in today's topic we are going to discuss the ways of declaring a variable in order to store any kind of value while programming in your QBASIC. So that means we are going to see today theoretically and practically both to assign any kind of value with the help of your variable declaration. Now the meaning of this variable declaration in QBASIC is simply whenever we write a program, first thing what you need to do is to declare a variable. Okay, and that variable is declared obviously along with the name and the rules we have already discussed. Now by the time you declare any kind of variable along with the name, then only you will be able to store or define its corresponding data type in the QBASIC. That means during the process of this programming in QBASIC, you will have to define the variable and its appropriate data type in the QBASIC. So defining a variable in QBASIC simply refers to creating a variable with a certain value on it. That means without having any kind of data type, without having any appropriate data type along with the suffix, you will not be able to store any value in a QBASIC programming. But you need to understand that it's not only about declaring the variable, it is a data type as well. That means once you declare any kind of variable in a QBASIC while this programming process, you also need to make sure that you write specific type of data. Otherwise, programming will not function. So there are two ways actually in order to declare the variable in QBASIC. It's not that we are talking about the types of the variable. Here we are going to talk about the ways how you are going to declare a variable so that the variable can be used in a QBASIC so that you obtain your desired output. So basically we have here two types of or the two ways to declare the variable. Number one is known as your explicit variable declaration and second one is implicit declaration of the variable. Now first one, let's talk about the explicit declaration of the variable. So here we are going to understand that what is the meaning of this. So now whenever you declare any kind of variable in QBASIC with the help of dim statement, that simply indicates you are trying to define a variable or declare a variable in an explicit declaration method actually. I repeat again, whenever you assign any kind of value, okay, but that value is stored in a variable and that variable is declared with the dim statement, that refers to the explicit declaration of a variable. Now explicit declaration of the variable definitely is going to help you to declare a variable before in hand. That means in advance you can declare a type of the value that you are going to actually assign in that variable. For example, dim statement. If I write dim a as integer, that means now you are trying to indicate over here that you are going to use a variable a and the data type in that variable will be declared as integer, not more than that. That means before you assign any value into a variable, it is already declared by you with the help of dim statement that the upcoming variable a is able to store integer variable. That means with the help of dim, you can declare a variable before you start writing or processing any kind of program in the QBASIC. Now it depends upon you, whichever mode you find the convenient. And the next type of declaring a variable in a QBASIC programming is known as a implicit declaration of the variable. You might be thinking that, but so far we were doing a programming in a QBASIC without declaring a variable beforehand. Of course, it's not mandatory. So during the QBASIC programming process, it's not mandatory all the time to declare a variable in advance. You can also declare the variable in the program whenever it is required. That means when you start writing a program and all of a sudden, it comes the necessity of using any kind of string variable in order to store the string value. In that case, you can declare a variable and the data type instantly as per your need. So the best example of declaring a value with the help of implicit declaration, simple example, let a percentage is equals to 30,767. That we have already talked about this. This is a integer numeric variable and the value. That means whenever you feel like using the integer value along with the integer variable, you can declare on the spot whenever you are supposed to assign a value in order to obtain the desired output. Now, after talking about the brief meaning of this, let's say about the variable declaration, now I would like to take you to the QBASIC so that you can see the practical implementation and it also clears your vision or the doubt in order to declare a value using the two ways. That means using an explicit declaration of the variable, and second one to declare a variable using the implicit declaration of the variable. So these are the only two ways through which you can declare a variable in QBASIC program. Now let's go to the QBASIC and see how these things can be used. Okay, now we are back to the practical implementation of the declaration of the variable in QBASIC. So we talk about the two ways or the two methods of declaring a variable in a QBASIC. One was the explicit declaration of the variable and second one was the implicit declaration of the variable. Now in an explicit declaration of the variable, we discussed that we are going to define or declare a type of the data that we are going to use it with the help of the variable type. That means we are going to use a dim statement to declare a type of the variable that we are going to use in order to store the data. So for example, if I say over here dim a as string. Now see, you might be thinking, but whenever we talk about storing a value in a string variable, that was supposed to be $1, isn't it? Okay, so let's go ahead. I'll do it for you. I'm going to write $1 as string. Did you notice? It's not going to accept. Identifier cannot end with all of these symbols. That means when you write a program in a QBASIC for declaring a variable with the help of explicit declaration way or the method, you do not have to specify the symbol over here to indicate the type of data that you are going to store it. So you simply declare one variable as it indicates what type of variable you are going to declare actually for the future reference. That means the corresponding data that I'm going to give is the string, so it's gonna accept it. So okay, so now if I write a is equals to, okay, let's say testing, and I write print a, and you might be wondering, variable is numeric but the value is string, it's not gonna execute. Is this so? No, because you have already declared this variable with the help of dim statement that is going to be treated as a string variable. This is the declaration of variable with the help of explicit. Now if I go to run, trust me, it's gonna give you the answer. See, there is no difference. Though the variable, it seems like the numeric. You might be wondering, but whenever we store a data in a double quotation mark, the variable supported should be the dollar. But over here, dimension a itself indicates this variable is going to be treated as a string variable. That means without having a dollar also, it's going to accept. That's a pre-declaration that we discussed. Okay, now how about writing certain different value over here? Let's say 1, 2, 3 or this, all these symbols. Will it accept? If you remember my first session, definitely it's going to accept. Why? Anything you write between double quotation mark, it's going to be treated as a string value. So I guess it's clear. Now how about if I write over here integer and I write the value 32,767 and I'm going to print it. Now the data type is a integer. The variable declaration a is as an integer. So if I run it, obviously it's going to give the same value because the variable that you have declared over here is the integer. How about if I make it 78? Will it accept? Let's run it. No. What is the reason? You go through the first video if you have not come through this. That means the variable that we declare over here is the integer variable, and the maximum limitation of storing a positive value in integer variable was 32,767, and we exceed that limitation. Okay, so that's why it's not accepting. So you'll have to declare a value or the variable as per the need in your programming. Okay, now the next thing, how about having your single precision? In order to declare a variable with the help of dim statement with the explicit declaration of the variable, you cannot use the word double precision. So simply you'll have to use double. So how about using the single precision? So write the single. So I'm going to write over here. Of course, we do know it's wrong. So we are going to declare over here 1.12345. Obviously, it's going to accept it. No error. No doubt on that. See, what if I added one more digit over here? Run. One number is vanished. Why? Because we know the single precision numeric variable is not capable of storing the value that exceeds 7 in total. So that's why if I write, that means the 6 it takes exactly. So if I have to store a double precision variable, in that case I will have to write double. So this indicates the variable a is going to be treated as a double precision. So in that case, don't you think it's going to accept? Obviously it's going to accept. See, the hash is already added now. See, it's going to display all. That means this is a quite advantageous as well whenever you write a program and you'd like to declare a variable beforehand. Okay, so there is another way of declaring a variable in a program that we talked. That was the implicit declaration of the variable. So the implicit declaration of the variable means you can declare a variable the moment you need. That means beforehand you don't have to create. For example, let's say CLS, let's say this way. Okay, a is equals to 10, b dollar is equals to mango, because it's the season of mango, so I wrote this. Now print a and I write print b dollar. See, I did not declare this variable a that is going to store an integer value beforehand, or even the b dollar I have not declared beforehand in order to store the value that is in a string format. So if I run this program, will it give the output? Make a guess. I guess you're right. It's going to give the output without any error. See. So this is the implicit way of declaring a variable. So that means when we write the program, you have two options. Number one, you declare the variable beforehand in the mode or in the type of explicit declaration of the variable, and the second type or the second way of declaring a variable in order to write the program in QBASIC is the implicit declaration of the variable. So whichever you find the convenient, you can use it. There is no hard and fast rule, but sometimes we might come across certain circumstances that you might or you should have used sometime your explicit way of declaration of the variable. So of course about this we are going to do the long program in a days to come. So I do believe now the meaning of explicit declaration of the variable and the implicit declaration of the variable is clear to you. If you find it fruitful, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.